Hey guys, Dakota from Cartropolis TCG. Today I'm going to be doing a deck profile on the Legacy deck that I took. I think it's a couple weekends ago now. Yeah, I played in a Legacy 2K. I got second place, so I won like a Bayou, which is pretty cool. But this is the deck that I took. It's kind of, it's basically blue-red Delver minus the Delvers. I was trying to build some sort of like Rug Delver deck the night before, and I couldn't quite, because I really wanted to play Endurance, but I couldn't quite get the mana how I wanted it. And I'll get to like the mana base for this deck in a little bit, but the mana was really good being just two colors. But yeah, the deck was a lot of fun. There's a ton of like play to it. And yeah, I thought my matchups were pretty good overall. And yeah, I guess we'll get started. So for Ragavan, the infamous monkey, it's a 1-mana 2/1. Whenever it deals damage to a player, you get a treasure token. You exile the top card of their library, and you may play that card by paying like mana costs and stuff. So in Legacy, you get to take people's Ponders, Brainstorms, Bolts, in mirror matches and stuff. So it's really good in like blue mirrors. It's like not that great against like lands or like Death and Taxes really. I think I did hit a Death and Taxes player and like took his Thalia. So that was funny. And then it blocked like his Thalia from like attacking. You can also dash this for 2 mana. It gets haste and then it goes back to your hand at the end of the turn. So against like decks with like sorcery speed removal, like prismatic ending, it might be, if you're flooding a little bit, it might be worth it to just dash it, get it back, dash it, get it back kind of thing. Next up, MVP of the deck, Dragon's Rage Challenger, DRC, Darcy, whatever you want to call it. 1 mana 1/1. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, surveil 1, look at the top card of your library, either leave it there or put it in your discard pile. And then Delirium, as long as there's 4 more card types in your graveyard, it gets +2/+2 flying and has to attack each turn. Normally, you want to like attack each turn anyway, so that's like, it does come up where you don't want to attack. Yeah, this is very easily a 3/3 flyer, and the surveil effect is like actually just insane. I actually just could not flood the entire weekend. It was just like impossible with this. Especially with all like the draw spells we have, it's just so much deck manipulation that you're just always finding threats, removal, whatever you need at the time. So like this card was insane. Next up we got Murktide Regent, the big dragon, 7 mana 3/3 delve. So basically it's 2 blue, flying. Enters the battlefield with +1/+1 counter on it for each instant of sorcery exiled with it. So it can become an 8/8. And then whenever an instant or sorcery leaves your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So if you play another one, it gets bigger. Or if people start like hitting your graveyards and stuff, it randomly gets bigger too. This card is really insane. It puts such a fast clock on. So they get rid of your like early threats. You just like drop that, and it's just like an 8/8. They're dead in like 1 or 2 turns. I'm not playing 4 because it does kind of clog a little bit, but you can like brainstorm it away, and you can pitch extra ones to like forces and stuff. So, but I thought 3 was a good number. Also, I had problems like with space in the deck, so I definitely was not able to like fit 4. Next up, you got like 2 little texts here, kind of what I put in place of like Delver. So I put a True Name Nemesis, 3 mana 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, you name a player, and then it has protection from chosen player. So really good in board stalls, really good against like Death and Taxes, really good against control. I thought there was going to be more fair decks, so I thought this was going to be a good choice, which it definitely was. Won me a couple games. And if you're against combo and it's too slow, you just pitch to force. So the cool thing is like most of these like pitch to force, so if they're like bad in a certain matchup, you just get rid of it. Next up, I got a Brazen Borrower, 3 mana, 3/1 flash flying, and then you can also Petty Theft as an instant For 2 mana, bounce target non-land permanent to an opponent controls his owner's hand. So that's super nice. It's mostly there for like Merit Liege tokens, because like lands is really popular, Turbo Depths is like popular and stuff. But you can also bounce like Murktides. Yeah, it's mostly you can bounce constructs to make them smaller. But yeah, overall really good card. I like playing one in main, one inside, usually in all my Delver decks, like at least all the ones I've played recently. All right, so that's like it for threats. It's a little bit low on the threat count, but because we have so much draw and cycling and everything, this was like almost the perfect amount. Maybe I would have liked to have fit like one more in, but yeah, I didn't really miss the Delvers. They probably wouldn't have flipped that often because I'm playing like some non. I also don't like relying on them to flip. I guess this gets hit by like Graveyard Hate and stuff. Like this deck kind of gets hit by Graveyard Hate, but you still have like Monkey and True Name as like stuff that doesn't like care about the graveyard. But yeah, on to draw spells. We got four Ponder, 1 mana, look at top 3 cards of your deck, rearrange it, draw a card, or you can shuffle it and then draw a card. So really good with DRC. You cast the Ponder, you look. If you don't like that card, you just discard it, and then you're basically looking at like 4 cards, which is actually super good. Yeah, it just helps Murktide, get bigger and stuff. It allows you to like set up for your expressive iterations too. So sometimes you might keep like a okay Ponder because you have this for next turn to like get your land, but we'll get into that. Brainstorm, everybody knows Brainstorm. Draw 3, put 2 back. Really good with DRC again. So yeah, you can like draw 3, put 2 back, and then like play Ponder, mill 1. So at least you can get rid of like one of them if you want to like keep some. So that's like some cool tricks. Mishra's Bauble. I wanted to play 4 of this. I probably don't need to play 4, but I just really wanted to. I hadn't played Legacy in like 2 years. I wanted to play 4 of this with DRC. 0 mana, so it triggers that for free, and then you can sacrifice it, look at the top of either player's library, and then at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep, you draw a card. So you can do it like on your turn to check your opponent's top to like draw a card to like, so you have Force of Will like fodder, I guess, if you were trying to draw a blue card, or if you're trying to dodge like hand attack, you can do it at their upkeep. And then you'll draw the card at the beginning of your next turn, and you still kind of know what they're drawing for turn. So you know if you need to force or not. It's also really good. You can bobble yourself to see if you want to fetch or if you want to play like a basic turn 1. So that's always like, so like say you have a fetch and like a volcanic and like, I don't know, like a Regvan, I guess. You can like bobble yourself, see if you want the next card, and then either if you want the card, you play the volcanic and the Regvan, but if you don't want the card, you can fetch, get a basic or another volcanic, and then play the Regvan. So just like very good at making sure you draw good cards. Next up, we got Expressive Iteration. I really like this card. I think this card was one of the best cards in the deck. That being said, I don't know if I want 4 of it, but I don't know what else to cut. Like the deck's already so tight. But this card's also insane with DRC. Everything in this deck's like insane with DRC. But yeah, 2 mana. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. 1 goes to hand, 1 goes on the bottom of the library, and exile 1, and then you may play the exiled card this turn. So it's really good with extra lands, because if you look at top 3, you add the spell you want, you exile a land, you bottom the other one. You can play the land from exile. You don't have to pay any mana. Mishra's Bauble is also really good for that. But yeah, like this card is actually insane. Or also, like if you're like flooding, you can also like grab 2 good things and like play it. You can't really play it on turn like 2 unless you hit a Mishra's Bauble, because otherwise you're just looking at 1, exiling 1, and you have no mana to like play it or anything. So usually it's like a turn 3 card, but you can always pitch it to like forces early, the first couple turns. So that's always like, it is like a perfect card. Like against Death and Taxes, you definitely like take this out because they're just taxing your mana so much, so you'll just like never be able to play this card. But against like Blue Mirrors also is a little iffy. If you take out Force of Wills, then this can like get stuck in your hand. Like you're like getting beat down and like dazed and stuff. Like you might not be able to play this. But it's really good like top deck. So like if both players are just on 0 cards and you like top deck this, like, oh my gosh, this card's like insane to top deck. So usually I shave like, depending on how aggressive my opponents are, I'll shave like one of these in like Delver Mirrors. Against Death and Taxes, you probably take them all out. Against Combo, you can still pitch it to Force and it can like dig for a threat and like counter magic, so probably keep it. Against Control, this card is insane. So yeah, MVP of the weekend, got me so many cards. Really good with Mishra's Bauble though. Really good with Mishra's Bauble. So that's it for draw, but it's a lot of draw. It's like 15 draw spells. So yeah, it's you find pretty much whatever you need all the time. Next up, we got our Counterspells and removal. So we got 4 days. In a deck with such a low curve, you definitely want free Counterspells. So days, 2 mana, counter target spell unless they pay 1, or you can return an island to your hand so you don't have to pay the mana cost. So if you're like tapped out, you can bounce something and counter their spell. And then next turn you can brainstorm and fetch away the extra land, so you keep yourself at a pretty low land count. Usually I take this out if I'm going second, or against like any deck that I expect the game to go really long. Against like lands, I never get a daze anything really. Control, can't really daze that much. So usually it's mostly for a combo and like game 1s or when you're going first. Next up, we got 5 forces. We got 1 Force of Negation and 4 Force of Will. They both can be cast by exiling a blue card from your hand. Force of Will, you lose life and counters any spell. This one, you don't lose life, but it counters any non-creature spell and it exile it. So this is really good against like Life from the Loam for the lands players. Really good against any kind of like control deck, because like they have less Snapcaster targets if you hit like a removal spell with this. But yeah, I really like 6 forces main deck, but because I thought the meta was going to be a little bit more fair and less combo, I decided to go down to 5 forces main and 1 force in the side. Yeah, overall, these are all really good with DRC as well. Everything in the deck's good with DRC. Because like you're just like making sure you're drawing good cards for your like next turn. If you need a land and you like daze, like DRC can check top and see if you get your land. Force of Will, again, say you're like protecting your last threat, you Force of Will. Now you're like probably have like no hand. You can still be digging for like either another threat or like a bolt to finish them off, or like a cantrip to try to set up your next couple turns. Yeah. And then our removal, we have 4 Lightning Bolt and 2 Unholy Heat. Unholy Heat, I mean, everyone knows what Lightning Bolt does. 1 mana, 3 damage to any target. It goes at planeswalkers, goes at people's faces, goes at creatures. Unholy Heat is there for mostly for planeswalkers and for big creatures. So it's 1 mana, 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Not player, though. And then if you have Delirium, it does 6 instead. So it can kill Jaces in like 1 shot. It can kill smaller Murktides. It can kill Tarmogoyfs. It kills like almost everything. Doesn't kill like Merit Liege or any like indestructible stuff like that. But yeah, very good. Very good card. If you're expecting a lot of Regavan, you might consider a 7th 1 mana removal spell main. But I just understood that I was just going to have to mulligan a little bit more aggressively to have an out to Regavan. But yeah, also in my sideboard, I have a lot more 1 mana removal spells too. So games 2 and 3 get better against Regavan decks. Next up is our land base. We have 7 fetches. I'm playing all of the blue-red ones, or maxing out on the blue-red ones. I'm playing 1 of each of the other ones, just so we don't get like surgical or something. 7 fetches, 3 Volcanic Island, taps for blue or red. 3 basics, and 4 wasteland. Normally Delver decks play 18 land, but because I'm playing 4 Mishra's Bauble and I have like DRC, I decided to cut a fetch and just go down to 17 land and keep the 4 wastelands. The main reason we can do that is because we're basically playing a 56 card deck, so we're very likely to hit lands, and because we're playing basics, it's harder for us to get wastelanded out of the game. I won so many games because my opponents could not wasteland me. Like, you just go turn 1, fetch, and you're like ponder, and then like get a mountain, and you're just like DRC, ponder. It's like actually just insane. I like having basics and not being like, again, I played against like a Grixis Delver player. He was pretty good. The games were interesting, but I just fetched up 1 of each basic and just like kept wastelanding him. He couldn't wasteland me. He was just sitting there with wastelands. And he just couldn't, I was able to keep playing my spells. And we're a 2-color deck, and we have pretty even distribution on blue and red. So, yeah, sometimes you can't play 2 removal spells in 1 turn, or like a threat and a removal spell in the same turn if you only have like Mountain Island. But the stability, I think, is more important. Also, it's a little awkward having the Mountain with like Murktide, but you're not playing Murktide on turn 2. We're not playing Thought Scour or anything, so it's like, I don't think we could. It's like a turn 3 card, if that. But yeah, so very low land count, very high cantrip count, and then just removal counters, threats. Very, very simple deck with a ton of play to it though. But yeah, that's the main deck. And I guess we'll get into the sideboard. So I like a lot of 1-ofs in my sideboard, but I like the 1-ofs to do similar things. But I don't like oversighting in matchups usually. So I kind of like the 1-ofs kind of thing, but we'll get into it. So 2 Pyroblast and 1 red Elemental Blast. They both counter and destroy blue permanents. Playing 2 Pyroblast because with DRC you can just Pyroblast anything. And then if it's a blue permanent, it gets countered or destroyed. So you can just like waste 1 to get the Surveil if you want. If you and your opponent are like top decking, you're just killing them with a DRC and just want to make sure, keep going or something, you could do that if you wanted to. Red Elemental Blast has to target a blue or blue permanent or spell. So Pyroblast is better than Red Elemental Blast, but you also play a mix amount just in case someone's playing like Meddling Mage or Surgical Extraction or whatever. That causes like different named cards and stuff. We just want a variety of the same effect, basically. But we're playing 2 of the better one. This is like the only 2 of in the whole sideboard. Next up, we got Flusterstorm. It's 1 blue mana, counter target. Is it instant or sorcery? Not creature. Yeah, instant or sorcery. Unless they pay 1, and then it has Storm. So, really, of course, it's meant for the Storm decks, which there was a couple at the tournament. I never played against any. But it's good against like control decks because the very cheap counterspell that can protect your guys from like living and stuff. It mostly gets like removal spells. Yeah, so it's just a 1 mana counter. Next, we got the 6th Force of negation, or just force in general. So that's really good when we're going against combo decks to try to kill us turn 1. Having another option so we don't have to mulligan as much for it is nice. Also, if we need counters for like planeswalkers and removal spells, but Daze gets bad, we take out Daze, put in these 2 as like kind of replacements. So at least we have some counter magic against the control decks. Next up, we got kind of like our removal, a variety of removal. We got Fork Bolt. 1 mana deals 1 damage to like 2 targets, or 2 damage divided up to 2 targets. So it can go face if you have to, but usually it's used to like ping 2 things. It's like killing a Delver and killing a Regavan, or DRC Regavan. It's mostly there for Regavan as a 1 mana answer for that. But really good against Death and Taxes too, so that's nice. Good against like Thalia, because she'll like make your stuff cost more, but you can still get like 2 kills out of it. So that's sweet. Blazing Volley deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. So if they're playing like tokens, or Death and Taxes have a lot of X1s, or if you're a like blue-red opponent, it's another way to kill Regavan while also being good against like some other decks. So yeah, that's always cool. Next up, we got an Abrade. 2 mana, deals 3 damage to target creature, or you can destroy an artifact. So again, it's another creature removal while also being like artifact removal, because we mostly only have like bounce and counterspells, but having a little piece of artifact removals, pretty good. It's also mostly for like Chalice of the Void, because if someone chalices you on like 1, like we can bounce it. We have 1 out main deck. And hopefully post board we'll have like a couple outs. But yeah, we can't really beat Chalice on 1. I guess we could like Murktide and try to protect the Murktide. That's like probably our best plan against that. But yeah, this destroys Chalice on 1. Next up, we got another Brazen Borrower for bouncing generic things, and we have a Submerge for like green decks like either Maverick. But these two, Karakas and Submerge, this bounces a legendary creature. And this can bounce, put something on top of deck, and you can play it for free if your opponent has a forest and you have an island. It's mostly for the lands or the turbo depths deck. You can bounce Karakas, and then this can also bounce Karakas, because like we can't beat a 20/20 flying indestructible. It's actually just like impossible. So we have to like bounce it. That's like our only way. Karakas also bouncing legendary creatures. You bring it in against Regavan decks. And you can also bring it in against like Reanimator, who bring out like Gristlebrand and stuff. It's not like the best against Gristlebrand, but at least it stops them from hitting you with it. Also gives us like an 18th land if we want to try to like cast like harder to cast things. Next up, we got Alpine Moon. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a non-basic land, and the land loses all of its abilities and just can tap for any color. So usually you name Urza Saga with this, because Urza Saga is super hard for us to deal with, because we don't have like the inevitability that card does, and our removal gets too small for like the big constructs usually. You can also name a ton of other like lands. You could name like Wasteland if you wanted to. You could name, just be careful because they can Wasteland you in response to you like casting this or something. You can name like Thespian Stage, so they can't like copy anything anymore. Yeah, like against any kind of weird like artifact control deck, I'm sure you could like name some what's the one, Academy Ruins, so they can't keep getting their artifacts back and stuff. So next up we got Blood Moon. All non-basic lands are mountains. We're playing 2 islands, so this doesn't really hurt us that much. It does turn off our fetches, so our brainstorms get worse, but usually when you bring this in against something, it's usually going to kill them. Grixis control decks that like used to like not play basics, Delver decks that don't play basics, you can consider bringing it in. I don't always bring it in against Delver decks, because if they have a board and you don't, and you play a Blood Moon, it's not going to do anything. They're just going to kill you with what they have out, and they'll force whatever you try to do. But yeah, mostly there for like Urza Saga decks. Just another way. It just outright kills Urza Saga, because it just like turns it into a mountain, and then it's not like an enchantment. Yeah, it just straight dies. And then lastly, we got 2 pieces of Graveyard Hate. We got Surgical Extraction. We don't play any black in the deck, so we have to pay 2 life for this. But you target a card in your opponent's graveyard, and then exile it, and exile. You check your opponent's hand and deck and exile all the cards of the same name. So if your opponent has a 4-of card that's like really good against you, you can like get rid of 1 of it and then surgical the rest of it. Also good for like Life on the Loam, Reanimator decks, any kind of graveyard deck is usually good against. Also triggers like Dragon's Rage Challenger, which is like most of these do, but yeah, it's pretty funny. Next up, we got a Soul Guide Lantern. I don't know why this card's like super popular. I guess it's just kind of versatile. But yeah, it's also an artifact, which is kind of cool, so it like helps get Delirium and stuff. Same with these are enchantments, so that's also good for Delirium. But when it enters the battlefield for 1 mana, you target a card in your opponent's graveyard and you exile it, and then you can either tap and sack it to exile all cards from their graveyard, or you can pay 1, sack it, and draw a card. So what you can do is, like, if you're against like an Uro deck or something, you just like play this, hit their Uro so they can't like bring it back, and then you can either hold it up for when another Uro goes in there, or like If they like play a Snapcaster Mage or something, you get them then. Or if you just really need to draw a card, and you can just play it as a one mana, kill their Uro in the graveyard, and then 1 mana next turn or something to draw another card, and it goes into the graveyard for Delirium. So I've definitely cycled this a lot to just draw and make my DRCs bigger. So yeah, I do like it over like a second Surgical Extraction. But yeah, that's the deck. I was super happy with it the weekend that I played it. Would I make any changes to it? I don't know. Like, maybe cut like one Mishra's Bauble for like you could cut like a Mishra's Bauble for like another removal spell if you think like removal is going to be popular. You cut a Mishra's Bauble for like another fetch land if you want to make sure you have enough fetches for Brainstorm. You probably could play a 4th Murktide if you really wanted another threat. But yeah, if you want to play the Delver version, you just cut like a couple of these and like these or something, and then just put 4 Delvers in, and that's like basically the Delver deck. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is DRC is better than Delver, so I just wanted to build a DRC kind of focused deck. We get hit. It feels like I'm playing Rug again because like you're kind of weak to Graveyard Hate because Tarmogoyf and Nimble Mongoose always got hit by like Graveyard Hate and stuff. So it kind of feels the same. So that kind of feels bad, but yeah, we're just playing like the best of like the new threats. We're still playing the same like cantrips, counterspells. We did get a new removal spell, which is really good because straight blue-red had a problem getting rid of Planeswalkers because they got out of 3, like you had to double bolt them, and that always felt bad. But this just straight up kills them. Killing Jace for 1 mana is actually feels bad. Like as someone who's played Jace and had it get Unholy Heat, like it feels bad. And yeah, Iteration is a great new card. But yeah, that's the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed the little deck profile. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. If you want to know like more about like the matchups and stuff, we have a vlog on the channel for this tournament, and you can go and watch that. It's pretty funny because when I get to like the end of like top 8 and I'm trying to explain that, like I can't remember because I've just played so much Magic in like the last like 2 hours and just like it was like brain cramping and just couldn't remember. But yeah, that the vlog is just like our little trip and shows us going to that tournament, and it shows like shows us like talking about like all the matchups and stuff. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for watching. If you want any more like deck profiles for like decks, you can leave comments, or a like or something. If you want to see any matches with this deck, we can totally do that as well. But yeah, thank you guys very much. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.